In today's video, the Dunbar Herd is on the move. And our e.coli test results are in. Got some surprising results I can't wait to share with you. Good morning, everybody. What is up, Dunbar and Blackjack Herd? Dunbar, I see you hiding back there. There he is. There's Mr. Blackjack, still holding on strong. Everybody, good morning. Well, hey guys, welcome back to Cross Timbers Bison. We are out here in the burn unit, hanging out with the Dunbar and Blackjack Herd. We're gonna move them to personally one of my favorite places on the Ponderosa, and that is the hay meadow, which is right here. It has had so much rest time. It is 18 acres of nothing but native grasses. There is so much packed in there, and I can't wait to move in there. They're gonna be so busy. There's 6 and 7 feet tall blue stem in there, Indian grass, side oats grama, little blue stem, switchgrass. So I'm gonna show all that to you here in a second, but they're right here actually, so it works out pretty nice. We're gonna go ahead and move them over. Let's see if they follow us. Y'all help us. Woo, come on. See if we get some eyebrows raised when I hear that sound. Woo! You other mamas ever gonna calve out? Oh, yep, Christy's falling. She knows. That girl, Christy. Come on, Christy. Woo! Scissor tail flycatcher right there. We're gonna open this up and let them make their own way through. Here they come. Look at them. They'll understand. She knows. Hope all the gates are shut. Oh, I'm so excited for this pasture. I've been really excited to let them in here. Show you guys what's going on out here. Here you go, Bill. Hey, Quapaw. Last one, there they are. Boy, they're gonna be busy. They're gonna be real busy for a while. I'm gonna drive up here and kind of show you guys some stuff, and we'll go from there. So this is switchgrass, one of the big 4 native species across the Great Plains and in southern United States. A wonderful plant, has a hint of looking like Johnson grass, but don't get it confused with Johnson grass. Johnson grass is an exotic species of grass, not particularly high on the bison list. They'll eat it, but as a regenerative guy, we do not like Johnson grass. We love switchgrass. Great plant to have, good to see. Right here next to me is big blue stem. We're gonna head to show you a little bit taller big blue stem. Hey buddy, Mr. Blackjack. Here comes Dunbar with grass stuck in his mouth. They went over there in the shade. If you guys don't remember, last summer and during the fall, I cut a bunch of trees down right there. Looks so much better. That's a big pecan tree. Looking fabulous. There is big blue stem, taller than me, in my hat. This is so awesome to see. Right here, all this, what you see is super tall, is a big blue stem. Another part of the big four. Here's a very easy indicator when you're looking at this plant. It has what we call the turkey foot right here up at the top. That one only has two, but you typically see a sort of three prong on this big blue stem. And the most important part of this big blue is it is doing this right here, which is seeded out. That is fabulous. So the seeds go into the bank there and will be ready for next year or in future years. But when the bison walk by here, some of this blue stem is much taller than they are. So here's an idea how tall this stuff is. Taller than me in my hat. This is a big blue stem. Here is a good look at it. There is the turkey foot right there, if you guys can see it. Another one of the big four native dominant grassland species here in Oklahoma and on the Great Plains. So good to see. I've never seen it this tall ever here at the Ponderosa. You do things right, you manage your land, you graze it properly, you don't overgraze it, you get some good rainfall like we have, and look what happens when you give your plants, when you give your pastures and your rangeland time. This is what happens. Finally, been putting a lot of time and effort in this. We used to cut this pasture. It was a hay meadow before we even got the property. And within our first 2 years, we were like, oh, we can get some hay off this 18-acre pasture. We can get our own hay. It's great. Then we started changing our mindset, and it was like, how about we need more pasture land to graze? We need more grazing land for these guys right back here. And so we changed that mindset. Instead of cutting our own hay and robbing our own nutrients from our own soil, our own property, let's get the hay from somewhere else and let's let the bison graze and do their thing. And since we changed our mindset on that, 2022 was the last hay cutting on this property. And here we are 3 years later with time, some effort, some good rainfall, and good grazing with these guys right here. This is the best I've ever seen the hay meadow. And it has the prettiest spot right up here on top of the hill. You can see the entire Ponderosa. So another species of the big four that we have here. Right here's a perfect example. This is Cytotes grama. I'll get a close-up for you. Another native species here. This is little blue stem. It's a lot like big blue stem. It is smaller, like it says. It doesn't get quite as tall. It doesn't have the turkey foot, but this is a little blue stem. It typically grows in a bunch grass sort of fashion. Hey, Mama. 1501 is one of the cows that lost her calf. Matter of fact, it was the one that we tried to save. We took up to the barn. She's doing good. She's made good recovery and she looks healthy. All right, with our Cytotes grama, it's kind of hard to see sometimes, but as this plant's growing, the seeds are on both sides of the stem. And then over time, as it goes to dry out and is ready to seed, essentially, it shifts to one side of the plant is basically what happens here. I have to kind of put my hand behind it so you can see it. There's some more right back here, but those seeds will go shift to one side of the plant. This is a really good one right here. Oh. And then here we've got, this is what we would call a weed. It's a broomweed, but the reason that broomweed exists right here is because we did our trenching here last summer, and you can see the ground broke up a little bit. And what happens is when you till the ground up, this is what you get is typically some of these ragweed or broomweed in this case. So what Dunbar just came over here and took a little bite of is Johnson grass. I was kind of comparing it to switchgrass. When you quickly look at it, switchgrass and Johnson grass do look sort of similar. These guys have a little bit red-ish color on their seeds. It's a lighter color of a leaf. Johnson grass has a really dominant white kind of rib right here in the center of this grass. And it's really kind of easy to tell. It's about the same height as switchgrass, but is not a native species. And here is a perfect example of what bison do right here on this. If you guys didn't know, when bison come by and eat the grass, they leave a saliva. I don't know if you can see that saliva out there. And saliva on grasses, especially native grasses, when they do come through here and nip this, it leaves that saliva, which entices the grass to grow even more. That's why it's awesome to raise the American bison. It makes complete sense. All right, so you guys are probably wondering, what is this? Oh, here's some good side oats grama right here. Oh, this is perfect. See how the seeds are all on one side? That is a full-grown side oats grama. This is a much better example right here. As these guys are kind of leaving, oh my gosh, look at them running through. That's how tall the blue stem is. It's fabulous. They're kind of moving together as a family, but this is what we call an exclusion. This is a way to measure how much grass should exist here. So in here I can tell there's some Indian grass, which is right here, part of one of the big four. It will seed out later. It could be seeding out now, but it's not as dominant as some of the blue stem in here is. But I do see a lot of Indian grass. There's some side oats in there. There's some other species I'm not sure about, but this is an exclusion. So what it'll do is it will tell us how much they're taking around the pasture. How much forage are they actually taking out in the pasture? And so the exclusion protects whatever grass is here, obviously, and it is a measuring tool on what they're consuming out here. Because they can't get to it, this will naturally grow and do its own thing. It's not inhibited by anything. Oh, there's one tall blue stem right there. And this will show how much they've taken. Just a great tool to keep up with your forage intake. Right here, you can kind of see the hint of all the different colors of blue here. The blue typically is your native grasses. And what will happen to these grasses, in the fall, is they will turn a red color. So if I fly the drone, or you can kind of look from a distance, you can see the red hint in your dormant grasses. You'll see some brown and stuff, but that red means your native species. So when all this stuff goes dormant eventually, okay, it will turn that reddish color. Means you're doing things right. The more red you see means goodness. And this is a whole bunch of switchgrass right here in front of me, and it's got a blue hint to it. There's another tall blue stem. I love it. I love it. Forgot to move this. We need to take this to the hay meadow real quick. Now I've got some Redmond for him to put in it. We need to get that over there. There she is. Hey, Eleanor. We'll go see her in just a second. Chained up, ready to move. All right, so right here is the line that I just transferred our water tank that I've been talking about lately. We're trying to set up some freshwater tire tank systems here on the Ponderosa. It takes some time and it takes money to set up these water systems, and farmers and ranchers know what it takes for these newly established water systems. So we're gonna put that tire right down here. This is about 1,000-foot stretch of a 2-inch poly pipe that was set right here that we just trenched, and you can tell some of the fresh soil that was laid back over that 2-inch poly pipe. By the way, our depth here is 18 inches of depth for a water lines to be. And I know some of you are up in the north are like, mine's 6 foot. Yes, I know, but down here in the south, it's at least 18 inches is required. In situations like this, where I just trenched it, I did at least 2 feet, and maybe less in some places, but at least 2 feet just to get it good in the ground. And you're probably wondering, why 2-inch pipe? Well, we did 2-inch so that we could get a lot of water volume and push all the way back here. This is a 2,000-foot roll. I did 1,000 foot of it last summer. Marissa and I rode that little ride-along trencher. This time I used my neighbor Richard's trencher that you could put on the skid steer. I used it, and so I trenched this last 1,000 feet, and it will have a lot of volume. And so why we did that is so that we could take it to other places. Now, all of that stems from a water meter, so I'll have a monthly bill that will go with that water usage. But we'll have a float on it. The bison will regulate it themselves, and so on. And it'll be good fresh water, and they can stay out of it. We also just got our E. coli test results back on 7 of our farm ponds, and including our creek as well. So after I got our results back, I called and talked to the environmental quality office where they actually did the testing. We went over the numbers. Now, a lot of this stuff is over my head, okay? And I know these were not cryptosporidium tests. We've talked about how much water you have to have for one cryptosporidium sample. So that means 1 pond, and also how expensive it is. So what we did is we decided to do E. coli testing, which I think after talking to them and doing some research, since all of this has happened, is there is a direct correlation from E. coli to cryptosporidium. Are they two different things? Absolutely. Cryptosporidium is a parasite. They both come from fecal matter, and that can be related to humans or animals. In this case, we're talking about animals. So we do know that E. coli, with our test results, that we know E. coli can be an indicator which leads to cryptosporidium. Something else I've learned about cryptosporidium is it only is high, or is a higher chance, during the cooler part of the months, which was May and June for us, is when we lost those red dogs from them drinking it. Now remember, it doesn't affect adults. The other thing is, what I've heard is, as the temperatures rise, the chances of crypto goes down. Now, that doesn't have anything to do with E. coli. E. coli can exist, I think, any time of the year. But they both connect on fecal matter or runoff and any other influences that can come into your pond. And that's where I wanted to see what was coming into our ponds and where our E. coli, or where our E. coli levels were. And if we take a look here, you can see, according to the E. coli test results, the highest was the creek. Now, I kind of went over some details there. That creek, some of that water comes from the city of Sulphur, and that, I thought, may be a major influence on where that influence of E. coli comes from. It was the highest. Pond 4, obviously, another high one, not compared to the creek, but still high. Pond 4 is where the bison were most recently, and that is the pond where I caught Eleanor, actually. So the pooping, the peeing, and being in those ponds, the E. coli is going to be higher. Some of the other ponds, like Pasture 1, Pasture 3, no E. coli existed. The yearlings have been in those ponds. I thought that was interesting. And 2, a little bit in it as well. Halfway 9 acres, a low amount of E. coli, and that's where the yearlings were actually at during that day when we tested the water, and it was surprisingly low. So you can look at these samples, and I think there is a connection between the two. Yes, do we want to test for crypto? Yes. You have to get a lot of water. You've got to send it to those places, and then the tests alone were very expensive. So that's kind of why we went with the E. coli just to see what was in our pastures. I don't know how many farmers and ranchers out there have actually done this sort of testing before. So I, as a rancher, wanted to try it for the first time since we've had all these water issues. I wanted to see what was in those ponds. And we know they're going to get in it. They're going to do those things. The E. coli chances are going to go up, obviously. But the creek really surprised me on that. So they don't drink out of the creek a lot. They like those farm ponds because they're out near the grass. The creek is in the shade where the trees are, and they don't graze in there as much as they do out on the open plains. So you guys take what you want from our E. coli test. I have it right here. You can take a look at it in detail. Maybe you know more about E. coli. I know that here in our national park, Chickasaw National Recreation Area, they do have to check for E. coli in some of the part of the creeks where the swimming holes are, because of people, the excess amount of people that come there, and you get a bunch of kids in there, and things can happen in some of those places where it just pools and it doesn't constantly run out. So I've seen those situations just growing up in our park. When you have a bunch of people like 4th of July or Labor Day, in certain parts of that travertine creek, which actually is spring-fed water, those pools can gather E. coli, and that's not from animals. I mean, it can be from bears, or from, not bears, we don't have bears here, raccoons, coyotes, those kind of critters, but a lot of those times during the summer and peak season, and when people are coming to sulfur and hitting those water holes, it can be from people. So, are we going to be drinking out of these ponds? Absolutely not. Are we worried about what our animals are drinking? Yes, 100%. If we could have our water system on every pasture, we would love to do that. Would we want well water? Yes. We tried to drill for wells and we missed. There's not a lot of water over here on this side of town. We've had to set a new meter, which we're going to show you that in an upcoming video. Been working on our entire water system and getting that all hooked up. We'll show you that coming soon. Another fun one here that I love to see, that's part of the big four. This is Indian grass, another native species that gets super tall and is really pretty to look at. And it'll seed out later, kind of in the summer, later summer time frame. But another part of the big four, that's one we work, is for plants like this one right here. Indian grass and the rest of the big four. Hope you guys enjoyed our video today, learning about some of these awesome native plants that we work really hard for, and we use the bison to get those goals accomplished. We appreciate you guys following us along. We'll see you guys soon. We're gonna keep on bison ranching.